The Syrian Arab army carries out an operation on a wide scale in Barzeh. The Syrian Arab army units pursue takfiris in various regions, destroying their hideouts and equipment. Dozens of Iraqis are killed or wounded in a car blast in a popular market in Diala. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yarado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. The developments on the Syrian arena were the subject of discussions between Indian Foreign Minister Salman Khurshid and the political and media advisor at the presidency, Dr. Buthaina Sha'ban, who talked about the systematic terrorist scheme Syria has been exposed to by regional and international countries to destroy the Syrian state and obstruct a political solution to the crisis. Dr. Sha'ban affirmed the Syrian government's firm stand to take part in an international conference on Syria without preconditions, and its keenness to find a peaceful solution to the crisis and put an end to terrorism and the financial and military support it received. Dr. Sha'ban thanked India and the BRICS member countries for their honourable stance regarding a peaceful solution to the crisis in Syria and non-intervention in its internal affairs. On his part, Khurshid expressed the Indian government's sympathy with the Syrian people against terrorism, voicing hope that a peaceful solution would be reached during the Geneva II conference and the Syrians would be able to determine their own future. Iran has stressed that dialogue among the Syrians and a firm decision by all states not to send weapons to the armed groups in Syria would make the Geneva II more effective and would end the role of the armed terrorist groups in the country. The Iranian stand has been voiced by the Iranian Assistant Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, who said talks among regional states would cement a political solution to the crisis in Syria during the Geneva II conference, because security in the region, he added, was not dividable and could not be realized in one country to the exclusion of others. Lahian said the states that used to support the smuggling of weapons into Syria were to blame for turning Syria into a shelter for the armed terrorist groups and their crimes, which would consequently move to neighboring states as they had moved to Lebanon. A military source pointed out that Syrian Arab armed forces executed a successful operation in Barzeh neighborhood, during which a terrorist den was destroyed in Al-Khal area and killed a number of them. In Homs, a number of citizens were killed and 25 others were injured following a terrorist mortar attack on Haj Atif Square in Mahatta neighborhood. Units of the Syrian Arab army destroyed several boats loaded with weapons in a Rastan lake used to smuggle weapons into Al-Hula area. Dozens of them were killed and wounded. The army also eliminated an armed gang inside a building in Babhoud area, in addition to killing many terrorists in Jurat al-Shayyah. In Aleppo, Syrian Arab army units clashed with terrorist gangs in a number of areas in the ancient city and Bustan al-Qasr, killing a big number of them and destroying their weapons. In Aleppo countryside, our army units eliminated an armed terrorist group in Ikarda building and Tallet al-Ani, north of Al-Nayrab and Al-Layramoun and other areas, destroying their weapons and ammunitions. The army destroyed a pickup car equipped with a heavy machine gun in Dahrat al-Shurfa on the highway between the Castello and Al-Misilmiye. In Idlib suburbs, the Syrian Arab army has eliminated a terrorist group who tried to attack a military checkpoint in Za'lana, killing and wounding the members of the group. The army also destroyed a terrorist hideout in Taftanaz, killing 18 terrorists, destroying their weapons and eliminating their gatherings in 3 villages. In Deir ez-Zor, the Syrian Arab army has destroyed 2 tunnels that had been used by terrorists, one in Al-Jubayla neighborhood and the other in Cinema Fuad Street. 2 terrorist hideouts, one of which consisted of 4 floors, were destroyed and their occupants were killed. In Dar'a suburbs, terrorists detonated today an explosive device in a bus that carried Jordanian writers, news media men and intellectuals who had been on a visit to Syria, slightly injuring Isa Shtad, Jihad Abeidat, Faiza Ahmed, Hussein Mtawi' and Amjad Abeidat. Meanwhile, the Syrian Arab army has clashed with a terrorist group near the National Hospital in Dar'a, killing and wounding a large number of them. The majority of the group's members were foreigners. The army also destroyed terrorist leaders' hideouts and arms warehouses in Uthman village and Al-Bajabha neighborhood. In Dar'a suburbs, the army eliminated all the members of a terrorist group and destroyed their mortar gun in Enkhel. In Iraq, 30 people were killed and dozens injured following the explosion of a booby-trapped car which targeted a popular market in Diala province. Iraqi sources stressed that the car was parking inside a crowded area in a Saidiya quarter, causing the killing of dozens. Iraqi armed forces killed 11 terrorists and captured 118 others, all affiliated with the so-called Islamic State of Iraq and Asham. At the outskirts of Baghdad, the Iraqi Golden Battalion killed 11 terrorists, including a terrorist leader who was wearing 2 explosive belts. The Iraqi forces captured arms smugglers who support armed gangs in Syria and confiscated a truck loaded with weapons. The Iraqi army also destroyed 14 boats in the Euphrates River used by terrorists to smuggle weapons. The Iraqi army also discovered 95 dens and 163 mortar shells. An Egyptian security officer has been killed during clashes in Al-Qalyubiyya governorate. Meanwhile, 7 takfiris have been captured in a Sheikh Zuweid neighborhood north of Sinai over suspicion of being involved in planning and taking part in the terrorist suicide operation that took place yesterday against buses carrying soldiers in Al-Arish, which killed 12 and injured 37. Back to our local news. In its session today, under the chairmanship of Assembly Speaker Dr. Jihad al-Laham, the People's Assembly ratified a draft law on setting up a high institute for judiciary. The Minister of Justice, Dr. Najm al-Ahmad, said the step represented a pioneer experience at the level of the Arab region, as it has taken into consideration the specialized judiciary. The institute aims at promoting legal scientific research and training judges of various specializations. Now to latest business and market news, but after a short break. Stay tuned.